Good morning, Chicago. This is WLPN LP Chicago, 105.5 FM, Lumpen Radio. You are listening to Perceptions of the Real. Every second and fourth Saturday, we talk writing, self-examination, and have a live guest to write 2 pieces of writing on air that you'll get to hear. I'm Eli.
I'm Sarah.
Who are we talking to?
Okay, so we have a special episode. We roll out special episodes for iconoclasts that we love. Ariane Nettles, who is also beloved, is another.
Was another special episode.
Was another special episode because when you write a book, that's a big deal, and we are here to celebrate these beautiful, incredible, dear creatives and artists who contribute so much to Chicago and to the people that know them and love them. So I'm going to tease our guest. It's author, artist, visionary Tonika Lewis-Johnson. We are so happy that you're on the show. We're so happy that you're on the show. Tonika is going to talk about her new book, Don't Go, Stories of Segregation and How to Disrupt It. It's a book that uses first-person testimonials to explore how racist messaging can continue this dynamic that we've had in the city for a very long time. But we're also going to talk about so much more than the book because Tonika Lewis-Johnson has done many, 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 many things.
A lot of life.
Truly a cultural activist, organizer, photographer, writer, teacher, mom, great community member, the neighbor that all of us would love because you're really pouring into the people and your neighbor, just a total gem. So we are so happy that Tonika's on the show today. I'm going to read through, just introduce you all to Tonika a little bit more. Tonika is someone who is a social justice artist. A lot of you know her from the Folded Map Project, which visualizes and explores Chicago's legacy of segregation by introducing residents who live on the same street, but 15 miles apart in racially and economically different neighborhoods, calling them Map Twins, which is such a cool project. She is working on Unblocked Inglewood, an ambitious effort to rehabilitate an entire block in her home neighborhood, which was harmed by predatory racist housing practices of the 1950s and 60s. Tonika is also a 2024 Gordon Parks Foundation Fellow. Wow. And Tonika opened her first solo exhibit at a gallery in New York. She also released her first book, Don't Go, Stories of Segregation and How to Disrupt It, co-written with Dr. Maria Kreisen. This book reveals how generations of Chicagoans have perpetuated fears about the city's south and west sides by sharing essays of everyday Chicagoans, those who ignored warnings to stay away from don't go neighborhoods, and those who have lived in these very same neighborhoods, exploring the deeply racist roots of these narratives and their ongoing impact. There's so much more to say. She's a teaching artist. She's also the co-founder of Rage.
I need this bio. So
The resident.
Just actually having you read it is just so touching.
Thank you, Tonika. The Resident Association of Greater Inglewood. I mean, if you... huge impact organization. Is a resident-driven association established to build relationships with fellow residents in Inglewood, public officials, business owners, and organizations. Has had a huge impact in the neighborhood and beyond. Also, Tonika is the co-founder of the Inglewood Arts Collective, a united team of professional artists with deep connections to the Inglewood community. I mean, and there's been so many awards. We're talking about Gordon Parks Foundation Fellow, Community Impact Award from the Metropolitan Planning Council.
This is hit after hit.
Landmarks, Illinois, City of Chicago. Together we heal, creative
say it like
placemaker
that.
grant. There's so many. I mean, truly, like the list goes on and on. We're so grateful you to be here, Tonika.
Welcome to the show.
Anything for you, and I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yeah. So we're really excited to talk about your book, Don't Go. And we have many, many questions about it, but we wanted to kind of start off to see if you could read a little bit. The book is, a lot of first person accounts, and it has your own in it, which I really loved because it was like a glimpse into particularly the childhood as someone who grew up in, like, I was an 80s baby. So I grew up in the 90s when you were like Babysitter Club, R.L. Stein.
You said, I know exactly what you
I was like, Eli, that's what, yes.
Yeah.
We would have been friends then.
Yes, we would have been. And I was like, wow. Just like I've talked so much about this with Eli. Eli's a 90s baby, but I'm like truly like
the
childhood then was different.
It was a major shift that happened.
There's something that happened because remember we would just romp all around.
Yes.
Nonstop adventures.
Yes.
And
I
it's
know.
like
It was outside.
We were
I think
outside.
90s it was changing, but we were some feral kids.
Truly, I was in neighborhoods like basement, like I was like you're just
shouldn't have been.
Yes, places you should not have been, and people just expected children to be all over and in their spaces.
Yeah. So I really do think that my generation is like the generation that the only one that could have created a folded map project. Like the generations after it probably couldn't have happened because of everything you're saying, the exploration, the no GPS, the unknowing, the naivete, just venturing off, not knowing where you're going to learn the Chicago grid map. It was a time.
Yeah. So we're going to pass over to Tonika. We have it starts off, it's Tonika's story. And this book is really remarkable, and we're going to have Tonika just read a little bit of it so you can get a taste of the book and some of the things that you'll hear when reading it.
Yeah, with my readers on, I'm getting old. For as long as I can remember, I have been surrounded by art and artists. If you walk through my home when I was a little girl, you'd see my mom writing a script, my grandma singing and playing piano, my uncles working on paintings, and me smiling in front of my dad's ever-present camera. Art was normalized as a career choice in my family. All I had to do was pick my medium. Even after my parents' divorce, when I was a toddler, I still lived in my grandma's two-flat with my mom, my grandma, and my uncles, all in the same building. A typical day in my childhood included laughing with my favorite uncle, hugs from my grandma, and riding a bike to the corner store with my friends. My dad lived nearby, and I still saw him and his camera frequently. I still have a scar on my face from when my best friend Raymond and I tried to climb up a tree on one of our neighborhood adventures, and I fell on a gate. I'm on a Mac, so I don't know how to. Is it touchscreen? Oh my goodness, totally messed up the flow, you all. So sorry.
No.
Continued. I grew up in Inglewood, a neighborhood on the south side of Chicago. According to the census, Inglewood's population consisted of 48,244 black residents and 190 white residents in 1990. Multi-generational living was the rule in my neighborhood. Books and magazines were constant companions. I attended Inglewood's Gershwin Elementary School in first grade, where I loved going to the assemblies and the auditorium, where I did poetry readings and little shows. When I was 7, my mom and I moved to an apartment on the north side, and I went to public school there in third grade. Then my mom enrolled me in a Catholic school that was near her job. We took the train together every morning, and then my mom would pick me up for our train ride back home after school. I was addicted to Dr. Seuss, then Shel Silverstein, then R.L. Stine, Fear Street series, and of course, the Babysitter's Club series. It tickles me to remember how many times I reread 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Then my grandma got sick when I was 11, and my mom and I moved back to Inglewood to be with her. I continued to ride the train most days with my mom to the same Catholic school I attended when we lived on the north side. One of my favorite shopping centers had disappeared by then, and my friends from other neighborhoods were never allowed to come over to my house. I didn't know this at the time, but their parents thought it was too dangerous. Also, there were places I was told not to go, but I still had a great time. One of my favorite memories is reading hour in 6th grade, when an older white teacher named Miss Hawkins would open the windows to let fresh air in and give us lemonade while we took turns reading books like Catcher in the Rye. Reading is still one of my favorite things. My childhood was mostly magical, better than most, but when I tell people where I'm from, they usually ask just 2 questions in one form or another about my upbringing. How did you make it out? And or have you ever seen a shooting? To be honest, I had no idea that I lived in the poster child of bad neighborhoods until I got to high school on the north side. I remember telling other students where I was from and feeling so surprised when they said, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" I couldn't understand why they were acting like this, like it was so bad to grow up where I grew up. I was a typical 13-year-old kid. I didn't watch the news.
Thank you, Tonika.
When you were working on this project, the book, at what stage did you write that? Did that, for example, come first, or did you write that, say, after all the stories were recorded and maybe kind of at the end? When did it come?
Closer to the end, and I often joke and say this book would not have happened without my co-author, Dr. Maria Creason, like reason, that's what she always says.
Cool.
It would have stayed a project in my Google Drive. You know, it was one of those projects where I was not prioritizing, and sometimes you need to have people who have a shared passion and interest to help you like do something or a project that you just keep putting off. And she was really that for me because she had written an amazing book about segregation. And so she knew her vision was, this would be a perfect book. And I believed her, but I had never written a book before. So I was like, okay, I'm just not even going to worry about that. So during the pandemic, we interviewed 30 people from the list of 80 who offered to share their stories.
Wow.
And we interviewed each one of them, and it was pretty predatory how I pounced on all of the people who like offered to share their stories, because when the pandemic hit, I was like, let's do it now. They're home. So Maria and I interviewed them, and as we were interviewing, and there were long interviews, because it was the pandemic, they might have nothing else to do. And the stories got really personal. It started with them sharing their don't go stories, but oftentimes, especially with the storytellers who were white, whether transplants or Chicagoans, it often went back to their first memories of, learning anti-Blackness. And it was getting really vulnerable, really honest. And so towards the end of it, when we knew it was going to be a book, a compilation in first person of their stories, it became very clear and evident that that we should contribute our stories as well. And also to kind of demonstrate as co-authors that Maria and I are completely different in every demographic way, right? But we have a shared interest and a shared passion that brought us together and allowed us to produce this book. And so we wanted to help people see that, not only our own personal journeys, but how personal journeys of people that you collaborate with, create something with. These are relationships that segregation could have, not made happen. And because Maria and I continuously through our life journeys disrupted segregation, we were able to find each other and create space for all of these other people to share their stories. And so I knew that I could not be selfish and just like not share mine, because I needed to be just as vulnerable as they were. And Maria agreed, and she also shared her story as well.
Wow.
What kind of questions did you ask in those interviews to kind of, it sounds like they went really deep.
Yeah.
Like, how did you kind of frame the questions, the methodology of how you did that?
So this is so funny, because this is when Maria will come in, because she's a sociologist and a professor at UIC. So she had everything planned out according to, the sociology methodology. We agreed to interview them together because of, the race effect, thinking, okay, well, they're not going to feel as comfortable with me as a Black woman sharing, some potentially racist memories, and same for the Black storytellers. They might not feel as comfortable talking to Maria alone. So we was like, okay, we'll do it together. And when we started doing the interviews, that went out the door because, people really wanted to talk to me about this. So, the participants were ready to like talk about race, specifically with me. So that was hilarious. So that was one thing that kind of went out the door. And then also, Maria had her set of questions, how we were going to frame it according to everything we prepared. She prepared. Then all of that went out the door. So it really just turned into a conversation, and I think looking back on it, it was because people, they were ready to talk about it. And I think me inviting them to share their stories on social media where they found out about, my request, very much like Folded Map, we were starting with a pool of people who were ready, And so even though Maria and I were preparing like all of these things, how we're going to do it, no, these people, they were ready to just jump in, dive in. And it got personal real quick. So, I would say, I had some amazing journalistic methodology, but really it was just me being nosy, because it was fascinating to me, as a Black woman, as a Black girl who had a diverse group of friends and just didn't really understand the journey of people outside of my diverse group of friends. Like, how do you like take that advice? I had never really listened to the story of someone who did. So I was really fascinated. Like, oh my gosh, it started to make so much sense to me. And Maria was fascinated by, the stories of the non-white people from the Don't Go neighborhoods. Even though she knew me, just hearing other people in very different ways share how, their character, their personality gets minimized into this box of what people think about the neighborhood they're from once they say that's where they're from. So it was really just, a rabbit hole of just being nosy. And it got personal really quick because as people were sharing their stories, talking about race, they were having their own reflections, hearing themselves. And they were like, oh, that's kind of stupid, now that I'm thinking, like in real time, even reflecting, but also, thinking about their childhood and without prompting. It wasn't like I asked, so was the first time you remember some racist being said to you, or when did you realize? So we didn't have to ask those questions directly all the time because no matter what, it always landed back there. And so that's what helped me confirm how personal being programmed stereotypes and racism is. It's deeply personal. People think it's political and only systemic, but it started very personal with individuals that have very strong beliefs and securities. So that's really personal. And to me, this book kind of reveals that in a way Folded Map was hinting at with the Map twins meeting each other. But you really get to hear people say, yeah, I heard my parents' neighbors say the neighborhood was going to be bad because Black people were moving in. And I was so young, I didn't know what that meant, but I definitely thought, oh, when Black people move in, it means it's a bad neighborhood. And to hear someone be honest and say that, you know. It just allowed for the conversation to go really deep.
It's very vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like it what I love about this book and everything that you've shared is that there is kind of people being willing to share things that they're not normally willing to put out there. And I'm really curious, you had said they had came to the interviews ready to go that deep, and I'm wondering what do you think made them come to the interviews being ready to actually share those things? Because I think a lot of white people, myself being white, is that there's until people do reflection on things, they have a lot of fear and insecurity, and all of the, I think the legacy of like genocide and harm that's happened in this country. Yeah. There's like a lot of, I think, people being like, they're not able to even surface those things because there's a level of shame and I think really tied to it, knowing that it's wrong on some deep cellular level. So I'm like, I wonder about kind of like why you think they came being ready to share that.
I think because each of them was already on their own journey of reflection. And so when I shared, my little post on Instagram, do you have a don't go story? Are you willing to share? Like it struck a chord for them, like, oh, okay, I finally have some place to put things that I've been thinking about in my own journey. And they, of course, they didn't know how deep the conversations were going to go. None of us did. But they came ready to be honest in a way that is necessary to address this seemingly small little mundane thing, just telling people don't go to a certain neighborhood. But they were already on their journey of knowing that advice is racist. And I think because it was me asking and all of them were, most of them were familiar with my work, I think just the integrity and the way that my work doesn't villainize all of us today made them feel comfortable enough to be able to continue this reflection in real time in a conversation with me. Because if you are familiar with Folded Map and you've watched some of the Map twins talking in the video that I call social justice reality TV, because all of it isn't rosy and is awkward. Okay, so if you've watched that or familiar with it, then you kind of have an idea of what a conversation me and my weird participatory projects might be like. So I think they were just like, all right, well, it's my turn. I'm ready to contribute to the conversation. But yeah, I think that, they were on their journey of processing guilt, and I empathized with that because I understand that, one, what I tell everybody, especially in those interviews, segregation worked. Like, let's just, it wasn't like they tried it. Like, no, it worked. And how we think and view people, how we treat people, our social networks are the consequence of that. And release the guilt, because we were programmed. We all were programmed to essentially be anti-Black and to be separated from each other in ways that we sometimes don't even know the history of how deep we're influenced. And so I pretty much approach each conversation kind of letting people know segregation worked, like, and we were all programmed. So, things that you don't know that you feel like you should know, those are the same things that, in my world that I grew up in, predominantly Black in Inglewood, those are some of the same things that we didn't know. No one was taught all of the ways in which Black people were mistreated, taken advantage of, specifically in Chicago. So I approached each conversation not being offended by people not knowing and having feelings of guilt, fear. So it allowed for a really safe space for all of the storytellers, especially the white storytellers, to just be honest, and they saw the value in their honesty, which is, for me, and I specifically told them, this is an important part of the conversation that's missing. Because when we talk about segregation, it's often, and rightfully so, but it's often like, oh, Black neighborhoods, Latino neighborhoods are segregated. The flip side is white neighborhoods are also segregated. There is a psychological impact to us all being segregated. And I wanted, in my body of work, to have a project that can include the white perspective in a way that was authentic and honest. And what helped me know that there is a valuable perspective are the cool white people that I know, and hearing their stories of realizing this, and also them sharing that they know that their worldview has been broadened and enhanced in ways that the rest of their family isn't, because of their friendships with people outside of their family who they grew up with, people from other races. And so since I knew that that was a truth, I wanted to create space for these people to share and process, what for them, most of them, was, guilt and anger of kind of realizing they were lied to. Some of them explicitly say, oh, I was taught that, Black neighborhoods were bad. And I believed it. And then they, they were like, and then I learned that's like not the truth. And they realized, oh, that is what racism is, And so I just really appreciated that contribution to this conversation of race and segregation. Because it's all hurtful in various ways. And I just really value the ways in which the storytellers shared how segregation impacted them as a white person. The fear, thinking everything revolves around them. Like, these storytellers literally said that. And I think that's an important part to know if we're going to come together and really create solutions. Because what I learned from the book and the storytellers, that it starts so young, the programming. And it means that schools are important if it starts so young. So I learned a lot about the ways in which policy has to be different. It can't be busing kids here or just affordable housing. Like, nah, it's in the house. It's very young. It's, what you are allowing your kids to hear, the conversation, like all of that. That's what the storytellers brought up. Oh, I remember hearing my grandmother and my uncle, So it's just a little contribution to what I think the conversation about segregation needs to be expanded to include.
I feel like the book, when I think about the body of your work as an artist and also researcher, because I know you were like the academic world, but I'm like, Tonika, you're doing this. Like, that's the thing is, like, we were talking about this morning, is that the way that you do art is archive work, is research, is anthropological. Like, it's all these things that are so complex and contribute so much. And when I think about this book, it feels like it's a form of narrative shift and narrative healing, or sort of restorative narratives for people. Because I see from like thinking about different people who are in the book, of different backgrounds, people are able, I feel like, to surface that through being honest.
Yeah.
And that's really beautiful. And then like more, you think about your practice, which I cannot wait to talk about the exhibit at Alka Gardens. Which
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's a project not many people know about, but it's so special to me.
Okay, we're going to dig into that later in the episode.
We're also going to dig into that after the commercial break.
Yes.
Yes, need the commercial.
More in a moment on Perceptions of the Real.
Hello. Welcome back. It's 105.5 FM, Chicago Lumpen Radio. You're listening to Perceptions of the Real, your Lumpen Radio writing show with hosts Eli Ramirez and Sarah Conway. Our guest today is Tonika Lewis-Johnson, and we've been digging into her book, Don't Go, as well as some of her other really profound projects that she's done as an artist in Chicago. Tonika, we're so happy to have you. So one of the things that you talk about in your story in the book is that everybody in your family basically had an artistic practice, and it was just choosing the medium.
Yes.
And like you've chosen so many mediums as an artist. And I'm kind of, one of the things we want to talk about is Unblocked Inglewood, as well as the public art project that you did at Alka Public Library, because we think that those are just such incredible projects that also, I think, share a lot of insight into you and the way that you see impact and change from your work. But kind of, why did you choose so many mediums, or did so many mediums choose you?
Yes, the mediums chose me. Okay, so my foundation, actually, what people don't know, my foundation is writing, is poetry. And I took a poetry class in grammar school and created a little portfolio that my friends were like, you should apply to this writing program, this new writing program. It's called Young Chicago Authors, because this was in 1993. And back then, the public school system, especially high school, because we were applying for high school, and they started sending us this newspaper that was for all of the public schools to like know about what's going on with each other, but it was students writing, student poetry. I cannot remember the name of this publication, but it was like a real big thing. Okay. And so they were advertising Young Chicago Authors in this little student newspaper, and my friend told me about it. And so I applied, and Young Chicago Authors was in its third year in 1993.
Wow.
And it was a scholarship program at that point. So each year that you finished, that you participated in high school, was a year that you would get $4,000 for college each year. Actually, $2,000. Let me correct that. $2,000 for each year. And so my friend was like, all you got to do is go to them Saturday classes and you write. You should go. So I did. I applied. I got accepted. And Young Chicago Authors was in Wicker Park. And so on Saturdays, I was writing every morning. And I met other kids from around the city who, weirdo writers just like me. And then to help us with our storytelling, they offered us an opportunity to take classes in other mediums. And I don't know why they did that. They introduced photography. And I was already primed and set because, my daddy was taking pictures his whole life. So I was like, let me take the photography class. Once they did that, they had to remind me to write. They was like, there's a writing program. You can't just tell stories with the photos. like, but why? So throughout high school, I was like juggling both. But I had a strong growing passion for photography. And so I stopped doing poetry, and then I started rapping, 1996. Thought I was better than Lauryn Hill. I was like, yeah, I can write a rap better than that. And then when I was like, oh, no, I'm not. Okay, so you got to keep writing raps. Okay, no, I don't want to do that. But photography was the mainstay. And so before Folded Map, I was part of a community-led like rebranding project called Inglewood Rising, and that was a billboard project where the community came together, purchased the use of 5 billboards in Inglewood, and we wanted to put photos of the neighborhood, like messages and mottos to ourselves, like really a love letter to ourselves. And so a lot of my photos were used for that project. And once that happened and it started to get, media attention, and I saw my photos on a billboard, and then the other beautiful part, because I am a journalist, I kept in touch with the, people in my photos. And so I got the joy of telling them, you're going to be on a whole billboard. So then I was experiencing like public art, like accidentally. And I was like, oh my gosh, I like this feeling, this process, like people feeling a part of it and for the rest of the city to know about it. And so then that's what resurrected the Folded Map idea. And I already had that idea, obviously from my commute to Lane Tech from Inglewood. The seed was always there, but I didn't really know. I was like, well, this is an idea. Like, how would I share it? Who would I share it with? Who, so I had just suppressed it. But then the billboard project came about, and I was like, well, if this is what art can do, then let me try to create this weird, crazy project that's been in my head, taking up space. And so once I started to really think about that project and plan it out, I knew photography wasn't the medium for this expansive issue. I knew that photography would be a nice support, but I knew it had to be more. I didn't know what the more was until I brought the Map Twins together, the first pair of Map Twins together, for them to meet each other and have a conversation. And so I knew that I wanted audio, because I was like, no, the photos is just not enough. You're not getting the feeling of what's happening. So I knew, I came prepared. I said, okay, well, I'm gonna just take photos, and then I'm gonna have audio. And then when they started talking and I saw the body language, how that was saying so much, and how with a photo, it was, freezing the body movement and the body language in a way that was like not accurate. And the audio was giving you a hint to what the conversation was like. I was like, nah, I need video. I need people need to see the body language in real time. That's what people need. And so then it expanded to to video. And then when I did my Inequity for Sale project, which is a project that I put landmarkers in front of a collection of homes that were essentially stolen from Black homeowners through predatory housing practice. I was like, okay, well, I want to have a photo of the home for sure, but I want to tell the story of what happened in this house and what this house meant, and like a dream deferred. But then what led me to the landmarkers is because I was like, no, a photo of the house isn't good enough, like, to share online. I really want it to be place-based. I want the landmark to be in front of the house. So it was like each project, I was realizing the different role of photography, how it's useful, and also its limitations. Even though it's my first love, I just knew it had limits. And so I knew that I needed to stretch myself as a creative and experiment with other mediums to really have the story told the way that I wanted the emotional impact to be. And photography alone just wasn't it for some stuff. And so photography and audio I love. Video has its place. Place-based public art is necessary for certain stories. But yeah, it was really just me navigating each project, figuring out like, okay, no, this doesn't work. This works. This doesn't work. This works. So yeah, even the folded map film, and that's the animation, I knew that I wanted something playful and light because the issue is so big and heavy. But I'm not an animator. And then I was like, I don't want to learn video editing. I don't want to do it. I like to get the footage, but I don't want to edit it. So I knew that I needed to have someone assist with the animation. So yeah, it's just like each project, you know, I kind of sit with it and think about the limitations of the medium that I might have originally wanted to do the project in. And a lot of them have limitations depending upon what you want people to feel when they engage with it. So that's how I ended up in a few different mediums. Even with the Altgale Library, I had never done a public art installation like that. Like what? Photos on a glass window? Like it is not a film that they put over the glass. Like this is photo printed on glass. But what let me feel comfortable was, okay, well, I did a billboard project. And so I was able to look at these windows and the emotion that I wanted people to be able to have. And then that let me kind of see what that should be.
It's interesting, those photos, you also had them colorized because a lot of them are archival family photos, right? And then you have your own.
You're so perceptive.
Want to know why? And then also you have your family connection because your grandma, when she came up from New Orleans during the Great Migration, she lived in that area.
Yeah.
And your dad, I believe, and his 13 siblings also. And you, because she babysat you all.
Yes.
Beloved grandma's always doing that.
Yes.
Hold on, 13 siblings?
Yes. My dad, I have a lot of aunts.
Wow.
I have a lot of uncles too, but they were older and they passed. But yeah, no, my dad had 9 sisters.
Big beautiful family.
Oh yes. So Altgale Gardens that's like my other home outside of Inglewood, especially familial. Like my dad lived there. My dad was living there when he met my mom. She was in Inglewood. He was in Altgale. He would make the commute from Altgale Gardens
to see her? Yes,
it's such a cute little love story. They were high school sweethearts. So that community is definitely a part of, my conception story. Yeah.
One thing that I'm really struck by is as you were kind of describing what it was like to see those billboards for the first time. Like you had been working on this project. You knew they were going to be on billboards, but that there was something different. It's up there now.
Yes.
And it allows you the opportunity to see yourself differently. To think, oh, if I can do that, then it leads you to...
It unlocked so much.
And without maybe that billboard, not saying that it was step one, but like it was clearly
It was. What I appreciate you bringing that up because what I like to remind people is I am from the neighborhood that did not have resources. So even though my work and my art is respected and appreciated, I was not trained on how to do any of this. It was really the community, us wanting more for our neighborhood and them valuing my art and my photography enough to tell me, we want your photos on the billboard. You just have all of these photos, and you know, what are you doing with them? And that is what unlocked for me, you know, my journey to being an artist that does public participatory art. I didn't know that specific route was an option. I went to college for journalism and photography. They didn't even have photojournalism as a specific major then. So, you know, I didn't go and get a MFA because I didn't view my photography as art. I just knew it was to help tell stories, but I didn't view it as like a centerpiece. And the Billboard project, literally, it was the centerpiece.
Wow.
And so, you know, when people, and this is why I have Inglewood tattooed on my arm, is because people who might be introduced to my work now won't know that, no, I'm actually a resident of Inglewood who was an artist and supported by the community. That journey allowed me to explore my artistic interests, issues that were important to me, and eventually impact. So, you know, I'm the byproduct of a community that cares and support each other. And so all of like this journey, each project helped me think bigger and envision the different ways in which aspects of my life can help frame a project. I was learning in real time at a rapid pace because of my connection to these large systemic issues. But yeah, I had no idea. And I often tell creatives, I didn't create Folded Map until I was 38. And I shared this with you. Well, you know, because, you know, you was with me when I was figuring it all out at City Bureau. And so I tell creatives, you know, it's a journey, especially if you're from an under-resourced neighborhood. You might not have access to things that would show you the potential and possibility of ideas and, you know, ideas you have or projects you may want to pursue. It might take you getting more experience, especially if you didn't go to art school. It might take you meeting other people or having a specific encounter that helps you actualize these ideas. And so, yeah, it really wasn't something that I saw clearly at a early age. Like, I often joke with people that, you know, to help people understand the impact of all of these systemic issues and how they impact all of us, I tell people, if I had learned about Black history in school, if I had learned about Chicago's history in school, or learned about urban planning, learned about, you know, just city hyper-local history, Folded Map probably could have come out a lot sooner. It probably didn't have to wait till I was 38, you know? So just to help people understand, you know, what the absence of resources and access, how that shaped even my journey. You know, you can't avoid what is your purpose and what is meant for you. But, you know, segregation and racism definitely played a role in which it was delayed, you know. But everything happens when it's supposed to, because the 2016 presidential election year definitely, motivated me to tap in. But the truth of the matter is, I didn't have access to resources that would have allowed for these ideas to have turned into projects much sooner in my life, because the curiosity has always been there.
But it takes so much work, I think, consciously and subconsciously, like you said, to actualize stuff. We live upstairs in our minds so often, and I can't help but hear the resonance between that experience of you interviewing those folks for the Don't Go book, who were also experiencing their own sort of opening up and dissection into those childhood memories that just seep into them. And that I think children are the most susceptible to those messages that are the billboards that their parents put up, the rules that their households put up that aren't necessarily loud, but for a kid, they're these huge billboards in our heads.
So transformative.
And I know we have 2.5 to 3 minutes,
Unfair.
but I'm so curious about how that actually influences like your journey raising children, and like what that means for like your house and how you parent kids and just how you actually interact with them, because you're so clearly tied to a lineage on so many levels that's what I've been wanting to talk about is you as a parent.
Question. Oh my God.
In closing,
I view my children as like my personal art projects. They are of me, but they have a life of their own. And you have to give them room to breathe. You have to give them the opportunity for other people to engage with them. You have to give them space to grow and evolve in ways that you might not even think about. With Folded Map, the Map twins created block twins. I didn't create that. They introduced their neighbors to each other. I was like, well, okay.
Wow.
So it's very much like my children. Like, I defend the journey that they're on with relatives who, are programmed to think your kids have to do this, and this at this age, and this. I'm like, well, no, my life was totally kind of unconventional in the sense of knowing what I wanted to do, me looking back and seeing how all of the moments led up to me understanding what I wanted to do. And I'm going to give my children the same space and opportunity to do that as well.
Tonika, what a blessing this has been. I don't even have words.
You're so sweet. That's a beautiful question. All of them.
And we want to say, if you're interested in buying the book, you can find it online. Don't Go. It's also being sold at Silver Room, and it's available on Kindle. So Tonika, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been there's so many kernels of inspiration and truth, and just one of the things we talked about before the show on the car ride over here is that you've really built your own path as an artist and as a person. Like, you're not following a path, you're creating one. And that's the impact of that is going to continue to foster a space that a lot of people can follow in your footsteps. Particularly, I'm thinking about all the young kids in Chicago, the whole generation of artists that's going to come from seeing the work that you've done. So thank you for everything that you've done, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me and for appreciating it and helping me see it in ways that, when you're in it, you just don't pay attention to.
You're too close.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Listeners, this is Perceptions of the Real, WLPN LP Chicago 105.5 FM, Lumpen Radio.